Hello and welcome to another Ask Cheeky. I'm Isaiah Henkel, a Cheeky Scientist. Today's question comes from Erica Boscone. Erica says, which resume is the best to use? You've talked about different resumes, including a functional one, and I've heard various things. Thank you for your question, Erica. This is something that we get asked a lot. No matter who you ask, it seems like everybody says you should use a different resume for every different company, for every different situation, every different country. Now, of course, there are outliers, there are individual situations. If you talk to somebody that's working at a specific company and they're in an actual role where they see a lot of resumes that come in and they are the ones who make the decisions on who gets hired, definitely listen to them. However, just because they work at that company doesn't mean they actually know what that company is looking for in terms of a resume. If they're not a hiring manager or a recruiter and they're giving you their advice, take it with a grain of salt. Likewise, if somebody else, your friend or whoever, right, they say that, oh, this is the resume that works, or oh, I read this, or that's not going to work, don't get afraid and think that everything that you've heard at Cheeky Scientist or otherwise is wrong. We've worked with over 8,000 PhD's in our Cheeky Scientist Association, and we've looked at the best practices, the resumes, the formats that are most likely to get you a phone screen, to get you an interview, and to get you hired. Across all of those different formats, there are three main resume types that you want to have in your arsenal. Think of them as tools in your toolkit. Depending on the situation, depending on where you're getting stuck, they can help you. Of course, there are different situations, country-specific things that you need to consider, right? Some countries, they want you to have a picture on your resume. Most countries, however, do not. That's one example. In terms of the three best resumes for you to have in your arsenal, number one, you need to have, this is the Cheeky Scientist gold standard resume. This is the resume that is very easy to read. You haven't adjusted the margins. You're not stuffing it with a lot of text. You are adding lots of white space, and you are structuring it with your professional summary at the top. This is your three biggest career highlights. Every bullet point in your professional summary and otherwise starts with the transferable skill, ends with a quantified result, and is sandwiched together with your expertise or your technical experiences. Okay, then after that's your work experience. You should have 2 or 3 different sections there. After that is your technical skills. You can make a list of these: instruments, reagents. It could be foreign languages, things specific for your industry or the industry you want to get into. And then finally, your hobbies and awards at the very bottom. Now, after your work experience, you'll also want a short section for your education. In this section, you just need to put your PhD or whatever your highest level of education is. That's the gold standard. Now, we also talk a lot about a functional resume. If you're getting stuck using your gold standard resume, switch to a functional resume. If you have no industry experience and nobody is talking to you, or you can't get your resume past applicant tracking system software, guess what? You're probably lacking keywords that matter to that company. Specifically, it's probably seeing your academic job titles in your work experience and weeding you out. You're probably bolding those, you're pulling them out like they're important from the rest of the text. The software knows that if you pull out a word or you bold it, it's important. And if it doesn't think it's important, or the employer hasn't input that word as being important, you're being weeded out. If a hiring manager skims your resume and they just see academic job titles, a lot of times they'll stop reading. This is when you could apply a functional resume format where instead of putting your academic job titles in your work experience at the top, you're putting your transferable skills or technical skills, the ones they're asking for on the job posting, as the headers instead. For example, you're putting project management and then underneath it gained as a graduate research assistant at XYZ University, instead of putting graduate research assistant at XYZ University at the top. The third and final resume you want to have in your arsenal, and this is gained in popularity even for PhD level jobs, is a sidebar resume. This is a resume where you can put your contact details in the left-hand side of the resume instead of at the top. You can even add just a little bit of design, as in you can add a line, right, a vertical line going down. You have that information, your key details, even some highlights, your professional highlights in that left-hand sidebar. And then on the right-hand side, you have your work experience, education, technical skills, and you have your hobbies, awards, etc. Now, a sidebar resume is really, really good for one-page resumes. They're very popular for MSL positions, for example. More extroverted positions where you might be valued, such as that kind of design might be valued in terms of a marketing position, a product manager position. There are many types of positions where this can just help you stand out a little bit, but it's just one tool in your arsenal. So these are the 3 resumes: the gold standard one I described, the functional resume that I described, and then finally the sidebar resume that I described. If you have any more questions on this, you can ask them in comments below. You can also go to phdsgethired.com, put your name and email list on that page, and we'll send you all of our resume information, including our resume ebook. As always, remember your value as a PhD and start thinking and acting like a successful industry professional.